Hi guys, I'm Kasha. Welcome to our coffee times to talk about horror, and today I'm here to let you know some of the new releases for the month of November.
It's coffee time!
So it seems that the majority of horror books come out between August and October, I would say, and then things kind of slow down. So I was trying to put together the list of the books that are coming out in November and December, and there are definitely a lot less horror books. So what I have tried to do is add a couple more thrillers so that you guys have a little bit more when it comes to options and titles. So this is a mix between horror and thriller, but I did have to add several more thrillers because there was a little horror coming out, at least that I was able to find, which is sad. We need more Christmas horror themed stuff coming out already in November to get us ready for December. But anyway, I have a list of around 30 books, so let's get to it. Actually, you guys, the first one that I have to talk to you about today, it's a Christmas horror themed book. And this one probably is one that I'm gonna have on my list because I think there is not enough Christmas horror themed books, so the little ones, the few ones that come out are books that I am immediately interested in getting. And the one that I'm talking about, it's called 25 Days by Per Jacobsen. And what I like about this one is that it works like one of those Christmas calendars where you would find a little treat in every door. So in Germany, there are this thing called Advent calendars, and in every day until the 25th, you get like a little treat. You keep opening windows and you get like a little chocolate or a little toy. So these has 25 chapters, so one for each day up until Christmas. So I thought that was a really cute idea. Hoping to bring his family together, Adam arranges a Christmas holiday with the family in a cabin in the mountains, and obviously there's something that's gonna happen that it's spooky, and in this case is that every day somebody leaves for them a little present at the door. Each day they get like a little present, but the presents start to get darker and darker and more terrifying as the days go by. I'm really excited about this one, honestly, you guys, because I love the premise. I think it's a lot of fun, and like I said, I need more horror Christmas themed stuff, and especially this year since watching Terrifier 3 twice in the cinema already. That is the perfect horror blend with Christmas. The next one is a mystery thriller, and it is called Under Her Skin by Jessica Huntley. The tagline is, "She invited a stranger home, but now he won't leave." Natasha's son gets in trouble with very dangerous people, so she knows the best thing that she can do is take her son and leave the city. Out of the blue, she receives a message that she has inherited a property and she decides to go there. It is isolated out of the city. Nobody knows that she's gonna be there. Nobody expects her to be there, so she and her son should be safe. The house needs a lot of work, and after they move in, one of the locals decides to offer the help to Natasha. But soon she realizes that this guy that she has invited into her own home to help her with, fixing up the house, this guy called Henry, is a little bit weirder than she first realized, and now he won't leave. The next mystery thriller in our list is called If You Lie by Caleb Stevens. 7 years ago, Olivia woke up inside of a stranger's trunk in the car, and she was able to survive. She escaped, but since then, she's always been looking over her shoulder. And I mean, can you blame her? Talk about traumatizing. Now Olivia is a true crime podcaster, and her mission is to help other women that have went through something traumatic, and also help other women not have to go through what she had to go through. But of course, doing that for years and being every day talking about crime, it's very exhausting for Olivia. So when her sister invites her to a cruise, she immediately agrees and thinks this is exactly what she needs. She believes this is going to be the vacation that she deserves, but then while they are on the cruise, things start to get really weird and somebody disappears. Moving on to our next mystery thriller, we have 5 Names by Adam Linden. Detective Barnes has seen a lot of death in his life. After all, he is a homicide detective, but the body that they find now is quite disturbing because they realize that the person that died was disembodied while he was still alive. Short after, another body appears also in a very gruesome murder scene. The detective starts to wonder if there is a serial killer on the loose and if these kills are connected. However, he has not been able to ID the victims yet, and he has no clues whatsoever to a potential killer. But then he receives a note, an anonymous note to the police station, and there are 5 names on that note. 2 of them are the victims that are already dead, so I guess the other 3 are the next targets. The Lake of Lost Girls by Catherine Green, and this is another mystery thriller. I actually have this one on my Kindle, so I will see if I can get to it soon before the year ends, because this one sounded really good to me. That's why I got it. I got an ARC from NetGalley, so hopefully I get to try this one out before the end of the year. One of the reasons why I wanted to get this one is because it stole through alternate timelines, and that is something that I tend to really enjoy in books. We are in 1998, which already is something that I enjoy, so one of the timelines is going to be in the 90s, and we are in a school in which girls start to go missing. And one of those girls is Jessica. 24 years later into the future, we follow Jessica's sister as she is trying to figure out what happened to Jessica, why did she disappear, where is she now, was she killed, is she still alive? So we follow Jessica in 1998, and then we follow her sister Lindsay 24 years later. The next one is a thriller crime book called Kill Yours, Kill Mine by Catherine Kovacic. Mia has a grief counseling practice, and she treats women that are going through a lot of grief at the moment, and she has a very particular group of women that are all sisters from women that were killed by their partners, and they are grieving the loss of their sisters who were murdered by their partners while seeing as these guys still roam free. And one of the things that these women have in common is that in one way or another, they all really truly want revenge. I mean, wouldn't you? So, I don't know if they do seek revenge, but I mean, the title says, you'll kill mine, I'll kill yours, so, you know, an eye for an eye, I guess. Next we have a YA horror book, and it is called Snow Drowned by Jennifer D. Lyle. So this one is going to be perfect for winter. We are in Fall Island, and everybody in this place knows that you have to be extremely careful when it comes to the snowstorms, because a lot of people have went missing and a lot of people have perished due to the snowstorms. There is a huge storm coming, and a lot of the residents of this island have decided to go to the mainland to avoid it as much as possible, but not our main character, Gracie. But Gracie is not the only one, of course, that is left behind. There is a couple of other people that have decided to stay in the island, and it's not just the snow that scares them, but the fact that they have just found a dead body. And now that the storm is starting, there is nowhere to run. Now we have more horror, but this time it is adult horror. We have The Swarm by Andy Marino. This is probably not the best pick if you don't like insects, bugs, and stuff like that in your book, because this one obviously starts with, you know, cicadas, and we end up with a big swarm of insects. So keep that in mind if you don't really like to read about that. In this book, there are many different scenes that play out kind of at the same time in the same town. There are some weird kills. There are these insects that are suddenly appearing out of the blue, like millions of insects. So a lot of things are starting to happen, and they all kind of intertwine together, all of these events. And then the detective's daughter is attacked by the insects, but this is going to be just the beginning. I believe this book is kind of a little bit of apocalyptic horror, so if that is your vibe and you don't mind bugs, this might be one for you. Next we have a horror novella for those of you that don't have much time on your hands, but you still want to squeeze in some horror. It is called Angel's Mass, a medieval ghost story by G. Mason. What I like about this one is that it sounds very different from everything else that I have read before, because we are indeed in the Middle Ages, and we are in a place where the monks are in an abbey, and then one of the monks one night receives the visit of a very mysterious man. Who is this man, and why is he appearing there to this monk? What does he want? Next we have a YA mystery thriller called We Know What You Did by Denise Brown. Apparently Summer and her best friend Cece have been taking some pills. They don't specify what type of pills they are, so I'm not sure if it's like drugs or if it's like some pills for anxiety, some pills to lose weight. Like, it doesn't mention what kind of pills it is, but apparently from the two girls, one has a heart attack and dies, and the other one is very scared to talk about what actually happened because she knows that she was taking the same pills. But as the pressure in social media escalates, Summer is very close to revealing what actually happened. The next one is a horror thriller that involves cults, which is something that I also love to read about. It is called The Threshing Floor and it is by Steph Nelson. We follow single mother Dallas and her son Cash that needs a heart transplant. Now, she knows that even if it's a baby, like a toddler, and they tend to be prioritized, it is very unlikely that the kid is going to get a heart on time before it's too late. So she feels like she has no other choice and she decides to join a cult. And this is because she meets Shane, who is part of this cult, and he claims that their leader is able to cure anything. A book about how high of a price a mother will pay to save her children. The next one is a dark Gothic historical mystery and it is called The Hunting of Herne Hall by G.R. Pigeon. We follow Army Captain John after the First World War, so the world is in shambles, and he lost one of his friends in the trenches, but he made him a promise before he died. So when he returns home, he goes to visit his deceased friend's family, and when he goes to their home, he realizes that this family might be keeping some very dark secrets, especially after they do a seance in his presence. The longer he stays in this place, the more things he's going to see in the shadows. Now we're going back to mystery thrillers and we have Fatal Foul Play by David S. Pedersen. Milo agreed to accompany his best friend with 6 other guys to a trip. What they did not anticipate is a snowstorm that will leave them isolated inside of a lodge. But they decide to make the best out of it and wait it out until it's safe to go out again. But of course here we have a bunch of friends isolated in a lodge in the middle of a snowstorm. And what do you figures? A body appears. Somebody has been murdered, and obviously if we're trapped here, it has to be one of us, so there is the murder mystery. The next one is one that I am really excited about because this is a Christmas horror story. It is also a sequel to a book that I read last year and I really enjoyed. So last year I read Candy Cane Kills and I absolutely loved it. And now we're getting the sequel. It is called Candy Cane Kills Again, The Second Slaying by Brian Macaulay. And you bet I'm gonna get this one as soon as I can. I'm putting this on my TBR for December. Let me tell you a little bit of what the first book is about. So the first book follows a family that rents this beautiful cottage to spend Christmas in it, and it is in a really tiny town. And when they get there, what they don't know is that this place that they are renting is actually a place where a massacre happened years ago. And of course, they realize that they might actually be in danger and now they cannot escape. So I absolutely loved that book, loved it. It was also a quick, fast-paced read. So if you have not read that one yet, you can add that to your December TBR. The next book is a YA horror fantasy, which also happens to be a sequel. The first book was called I Feed Her to the Beast and the Beast is Me. Now we're getting the second installment, and this one is called I Am the Dark That Answers When You Call by Jamison Shea. We follow a girl that knows how hard it is to survive and even to be successful in the world of ballet. And one day she goes to the Paris catacombs and she strikes a deal with an evil being because she wants to be the absolute best. But that it's not gonna work out exactly as she expected. We all know that making deals with demons and evil beings is not always straightforward. You should always read the tiny letters at the bottom. So this one, it is about, you know, doing absolutely anything, even if it destroys others, for you to succeed. Next we have some short horror stories, and the book is called She's Always Hungry, Stories by Eliza Clark. A lot of people will recognize that name because she's the author of Body Parts, which is a very well-known horror book in the book community. So you kind of know what you're getting yourself into. These stories are going to be very disturbing. There's going to be some body horror. It's going to be a little bit of speculative fiction. And yeah, I guess if you've read Body Parts, you kind of already know the vibe. And if not, then check the triggers because this one might be a little bit intense. The next one is another YA horror book, and this one is called The Keeper of the Key by Nicole Wilson. We follow 16-year-old Rachel, and she's currently not very happy because her mom has decided to relocate to move in with her new boyfriend. And that means that Rachel is going to have to leave all of her friends behind. However, in this new place, she meets a guy called Nick, and she loves him so much because he takes her on their first date to a cemetery, and she loves that. And so Rachel is like, well, you know what, I might as well just try to bond a little bit with my mom's boyfriend because I have to live here anyway, and I do like Nick. But then she realizes that there's something really wrong in this new house that they live. There's something in the cellar that is calling her, and of course there's going to be probably dark secrets to uncover here. This is a Gothic horror novel for YA readers. Going back to adult horror, we have The Legend of Mildred Wells by Michael Clark. We follow construction handyman Tim, and he has just went through a very expensive divorce. And he decides to buy this kind of house in the farmland because it's cheap and he can work on it and renovate it, maybe even flip it, make some money out of it because he needs to recover financially. But then he realizes that this place he bought, it's cursed by a family that is hunting the place. But luck, I guess. You know, if something is cheap, maybe it's too good to be true. And so he starts to see the ghosts of the family that hunt the place. Normally these tales go, you have to figure out why they're there, why they die, why are they attached to this place in order to get rid of them or to free them. But I don't know what's going to happen in this one, but it sounds interesting that it's not just like they're hunting you and you don't know what's going on. Like, he's aware that they are people that used to live in the house and now are just hunting the place, so it might be an interesting read. The next one is a YA sapphic horror novel, and it is called Dead Girls Don't Dream by Nino Cipri. Everyone that wanders away from the path in the woods never comes back. The neighboring town to these woods, it's a place where you will see missing posters of people everywhere because obviously the people that disappear cannot warn others coming here, and so more and more people keep disappearing. So this is a little bit of folklore horror also included in this YA horror book, and it sounds very intriguing. I love like books about towns, small towns, where people disappear if they go to a specific area. Nobody seems to care very much. They just put up the missing posters and oh well, another one that it's lost. until someone comes to try to solve the mystery. The next one is quite intriguing because it is horror poetry, and it is called Bestial Mouths by Brenda S. Tolian. And in this one you're going to find absolutely everything and anything in the horror spectrum, anything you can imagine, from invocations to dark stories. You're gonna have myths, you're gonna have surviving stories. And if you love horror poetry, I don't think we get so many books every year that are specifically horror poetry. So now you have this one before the year ends. The next one is a mystery thriller, and it's called One More Lie by Cheryl Brown. On the last night of school, some of the friends decide to go to the beach to celebrate. They do a campfire, they drink some alcohol, and they're just having fun when they hear a scream in the middle of the night. The next morning, one of the students is found dead. So from the group of friends that went to the beach that night, one of them died, and that is Pipa. 20 years later, it is the anniversary of Pipa's death, and someone else from that group of friends appears dead. The police is trying to investigate and ask questions to everybody because back in the day they were already not able to solve Pipa's case. Will they be able to solve it now? The next book is actually a horror novelization of a horror movie that is kind of like a cult classic, I would say, and it's called Chopping Mall by Brian G. Barry. He wrote the novelization to the movie. So you've seen the movie, you will know what to expect. Basically, it's a mall and something happens. There's like a short circuit in the mall and then the robots become killer robots. This movie's from the 80s, I believe it's from 1986, and it kind of became like a cult classic. Of course, if you watch it now, the effects, I don't know if they're all gonna stand up. I haven't watched it in a very long time, but it's a lot of fun, and if you don't like watching horror movies, now you have the opportunity to read the book. I think they're starting to do this more and more, and I'm actually not even mad about it. They did that with The Barn, and they have done that as well with Terrifier 2. So actually, I'm glad to see this, you know, happen more and more every year, because it is a way to bring readers the horror stories from the movies if they don't like to watch movies, because I know a lot of readers don't watch many movies, so it's nice that they still have the opportunity to experience those stories. Next we have a YA horror thriller called Perfect Girl by Tracy Banghart. Jessa has been raised to be the perfect girl, you know, always be helpful, never raise your voice, always be just polite with everybody and respectful. One night during a sleepover, the storm takes out the power and things start to get weird between Jessa and her friends, but also more people start showing up. Apart from the unexpected guests, we have also, of course, a killer on the loose. Moving on to a YA mystery thriller, we have When Mimi Went Missing by Suja Sukumar, and I believe I also have this one on my Kindle because I got it, I think, also from NetGalley, so I also would like to check this one out before the end of the year. This explores the relationship between two Indian American cousins, so I thought this would be a great opportunity for me to see some of that representation. So Mimi's family had basically to raise Tanvi because she lost her parents on an accident, and now they live together almost as sisters instead of cousins, and Mimi has always really protected her. But now Mimi has kind of fallen under the spell of some of the popular kids at school, and she has changed. Tanvi is not happy about it because Mimi has now even befriended some of the biggest bullies in school, and she decides to do something about it. So she wants to take a picture that is gonna be compromising from Mimi and the bully Beth, and after she takes a picture, she wakes up the next morning with a bump in her head, not knowing what happened last night, and also Mimi is now missing. So we have here a big mystery, a big investigation that has to take place. We have a missing person, we have Mimi gone, what happened to her, but not only that, why did Tambi wake up with a bump in her head without any recollection of what happened to her? Now we go back to adult horror and we have Sundown in San Ojuela by M.M. Olivas. The death of her aunt brings Liz back to her hometown, which she never really liked in the first place because it is a place that is very desolated, and it is a place that always has given her the ick. And that is because in this isolated town, she had an accident when she was a kid, and since then she's able to see ghosts. She never really liked this place because it's literally haunted, but now she has no choice. She has to live there, and she decides, okay, if I have to be here anyway, I need to figure out a way to get to the bottom of things and find out what this place is actually hiding. Now we switch back to mystery thriller and we have The Reunion by M.A. Hunter. This follows a group of friends that was absolutely torn apart after one of them died. Since then, they kind of, you know, decided to go their own way and they haven't seen each other for years. But now one of them is getting married and they have all been invited. And this is gonna take place on an isolated Scottish island, which why not? Let's go for it. And I'm guessing they're gonna start remembering what happened to them when they were younger. We're gonna go back to see who died and why, and possibly who was responsible for that person's death. The next book that I would like to talk to you about is another anthology, another horror compilation, and this is one that we get every year and I know a lot of people really love. It is called The Best Horror of the Year, Volume 16, and it is edited by Ellen Datlow as always. So this has been going on already for a very long time, and every year there is new stories featured, of course, by different authors, and this type of anthology, especially being curated by Ellen Datlow that knows a lot about the topic, about horror and short stories, it's possibly a really good way for you guys to find new authors that you might want to try, because then you can get a little kind of taste of how their writing style is and what type of stories and horror they write. So these compilations are great because these are curated stories, like the best of the best, and then you can maybe potentially find a new author for you. Going back to mystery thrillers, we have A Storytelling of Ravens by R.R. Penfold. What I like about this one is that it takes place in the Victorian era, and we have here a series of suicides that are a little bit weird, and these alleged suicides are something that calls the attention of a journalist that starts an investigation, and that leads the journalist to follow a path of ravens, because the ravens seem to know what kind of evil is lurking the streets. Moving on with more adult horror, we have What Protects Our Heritage and Other Aberrations by Wilhelmine Mist. This is a collection of tales that are gonna have everything from people that get lost during a snowstorm to your classical vampire stories. So there are short stories here for everybody. Our next adult horror book, it's called Consumed by Evil, and this is by John Durgin. This follows the chilling aftermath of the Halloween homecoming massacre. There was a massacre in this town, people were killed left and right, and now we follow the survivors as they are recovering from those events. Some of them are plagued by very disturbing visions, other ones seem to be threatened by dark evil forces. This is a story about friendship and survival, because the people that survived the massacre are the ones that now have to team up to try to defeat the evil that killed everybody in the first place. This is perfect for people that love psychological horror and supernatural thrillers. And last but not least, we have another short horror story compilation. This one is called Little Nightmares Holiday Horrors by David W. Adams. This is the third and final installment in the Little Nightmares series, and is going to have 3 stories that are all based around holidays. We have Halloween, we have Christmas, and we have New Year's. It's just they're going to be a little bit more deadly than usual. And this kind of reminds me to the anthology movie called Holidays, where you also go through different holidays, I think including Easter in that one, and it's all short horror stories. Alright you guys, so that was everything. This was my list of horror and thriller releases for the month of November 2024. I hope that you found something in this list that you maybe didn't know of, or something that you were anticipating and didn't know it was coming out already in November. So I hope that you found something here on this list. Thank you guys so much for all your support. If you want to support me directly and the channel, you can join my Patreon. The link is down below. I also do reading sprints with the Patreons. The Demons and I have a book club as well, so check it out. And thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you all, as always, in our next coffee time. Bye!